Are you ready to unlock the power of your mind and transform your life? In this interview, Dr. Joe Dispenza reveals the secrets to rewiring your brain, breaking free from old habits, and creating a future beyond your wildest dreams. Stay tuned, you won't want to miss this. Dr. Joe, it's a pleasure to have you here today. You've traveled all over the world, inspiring thousands of people to change their lives by rewiring their brains. For those who are new to your work, can you explain what you mean by rewiring the brain and how that leads to real lasting change?
Thank you. It's great to be here. The idea of rewiring the brain is based on the concept of neuroplasticity, which means that the brain is not fixed but malleable. We used to think that the brain stopped changing after a certain age, but what we now know is that we can change the wiring of our brains at any age through experience, learning, and even thought alone. When you learn something new, make a decision, or experience a heightened emotional event, new neural pathways are created. But here's the key. If we consciously and intentionally practice new thoughts, behaviors, and emotions, we can reinforce those pathways until they become the new automatic ways of being. And that's where real transformation begins.
That's fascinating. So essentially, we have the power to break free from old habits and patterns just by creating new ones in the brain?
Exactly. Most of us live by the same patterns and habits that have been wired into our brains over years, even decades. We wake up, we go through the same routines, we think the same thoughts, and feel the same emotions. As a result, we stay in the same mental and emotional states. But when you begin to change your thoughts, when you decide to focus on different possibilities and act in new ways, you are no longer firing those old circuits. Instead, you're creating new neural networks, and the more you do this, the more it becomes second nature. The exciting part is that the brain doesn't know the difference between an experience you're having in your mind and one that's happening in the external world. So, by rehearsing a new future mentally, we can begin to experience the effects of that future in the present moment.
That's incredible. You're essentially saying that by thinking differently and feeling differently, we can literally change our reality?
Yes. What we're really talking about here is a process of evolution, both individually and collectively. The moment you decide to be different, to think in new ways, you're pulling yourself out of the familiar past and stepping into the unknown, which is the only place where true change can happen. And what happens when we do this? The brain starts to fire in new patterns. We rewire it to reflect our new vision for the future. Our body, which is a reflection of our subconscious mind, starts to change. Our emotions shift, and soon, we are literally becoming someone new. This process is what I call becoming supernatural, because when we tap into this potential, we can go beyond the limitations of the body and mind and create a life beyond what we thought was possible.
That's powerful, Dr. Joe. Many people, though, struggle with the idea of leaving behind old habits or breaking free from emotional patterns. What would you say to someone who feels stuck in a loop of the same thoughts, feelings, and life circumstances?
It's completely natural to feel stuck. Most people do at some point in their lives. What I always tell people is that change is uncomfortable because it requires us to move from the known to the unknown. The brain is wired for survival, so it loves predictability. It loves familiar emotions, even if they're uncomfortable emotions like stress, worry, or guilt. But here's the thing. The only way to get different results in life is to step into uncertainty. When you do, and you begin to practice new thoughts, behaviors, and emotions, you start to signal new genes in new ways. This is how you condition the body to a new mind.
Could you explain a bit more about that? How does this connection between mind and body work?
Of course. The body is the subconscious mind. It doesn't know the difference between an experience in the outer world and what we're thinking and feeling in our inner world. When we feel emotions like fear, stress, or anger, the body is conditioned to those chemicals and it becomes addicted to them. The body craves these emotions because they are familiar. So, when you start to change your thinking, when you introduce a new thought of possibility or a vision of the future, you're going against those familiar emotions. The body will resist because it's used to the old feelings, but when you persist with new thoughts and keep practicing them, the body begins to change its chemistry to match the new mind. This is how you recondition the body to a new state of being.
That sounds incredibly transformative. But how does someone begin that process? For someone just starting out, how can they rewire their brain and body for real change?
It always begins with awareness. You have to become aware of your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. Most of us are operating on autopilot. We wake up, check our phones, go through the motions of the day, and fall back into bed, only to repeat the same thing the next day. But when you become aware of the thoughts that are keeping you stuck in the past, or the emotional states that are no longer serving you, you can start to make conscious choices. Meditation is a powerful tool for this. It helps you observe your thoughts without judgment and gives you the space to choose differently. When you meditate, you step outside the habitual patterns of thinking and feeling and begin to create from a place of greater possibility.
So meditation helps to break the cycle and allows us to think new thoughts?
Exactly. Meditation is like a rehearsal for the future. When you're sitting there visualizing a new version of yourself or focusing on elevated emotions like gratitude or love, you're teaching the brain to fire in new ways. The more you do this, the more you condition the brain to a new mind and the body to a new future. You start feeling those elevated emotions in the present moment, which means you're no longer living in the past emotionally. And when you do this consistently, you're signaling the body to produce new chemistry, new hormones and neurotransmitters that reinforce that new state of being. That's when transformation happens.
This really gives new meaning to the phrase "fake it till you make it," doesn't it?
In a way, yes. But I like to think of it as feel it till you become it. When you practice feeling the emotions of your desired future, whether it's joy, abundance, freedom, or love, you're training your body to believe it's already happened. And here's the science behind it. When the brain and body are in that state, you're more likely to take actions that align with that future. You begin to attract opportunities, synchronicities, and people that match the energy of the future you're creating. That's how you manifest a new reality.
It sounds like magic, but it's science. What I find so fascinating is how you bridge the gap between neuroscience and spirituality. You take these scientific concepts and make them accessible for everyday people.
Yes, and that's what I love about this work. Science is the language that unifies us. It shows us that we're all capable of change, that we can break free from the limitations of the mind and body, and create a future filled with possibility. The science gives people the how, and once they understand that, they can step into the mystery of what if.
What an inspiring message. Before we wrap up, what would you say to someone who's listening today and thinking, I want to change, but I don't know if I can?
I would say to them, you absolutely can. The moment you start believing that change is possible, that's when the door to transformation opens. Start with small steps. Become aware of your thoughts, practice gratitude, and meditate daily. Over time, you'll begin to see the changes happening within you, and those internal changes will reflect in your external world. You have unlimited potential. All it takes is a decision to start.
That's such an empowering thought, that the moment you believe in the possibility of change, you've already started the process. You mentioned earlier that stepping into the unknown is essential for transformation. For many, that's where fear comes in. How do you help people overcome the fear of the unknown?
Fear is a natural response when we're stepping outside of our comfort zone. The brain is wired to protect us, to keep us safe, and the unknown can feel like a threat to that safety. But here's the interesting thing. Most of the time, that fear is based on a prediction of the future that doesn't exist. It's an anticipation of something bad happening, based on past experiences. What I help people realize is that the unknown isn't something to fear. It's where all the possibilities live. The only way we can create something new is by stepping into the unfamiliar. That's where the magic happens.
So it's about shifting our perception of fear, seeing it as a signal of growth rather than danger?
Exactly. When we start to see fear as a sign that we're about to grow, that we're about to move beyond the limitations of the past, we can approach it with curiosity instead of avoidance. The discomfort is temporary, but the growth is permanent. And the truth is, when we push past that fear, the unknown becomes less scary. We start to trust the process of transformation. We realize that we are capable of handling whatever comes our way.
It's like retraining the mind to expect good things from the unknown rather than threats.
That's right. You can't have a new future if you're always living by the emotions of the past. When you step into the unknown and practice new thoughts, new behaviors, and new emotions, you are no longer the same person you were. The brain and body begin to change, and you start to see the world through a new lens. It's an exciting process because it opens the door to possibilities you never even imagined.
That makes so much sense. One thing I've noticed in your teachings is how you emphasize the importance of emotions like gratitude, love, and joy, even before the external changes show up. Can you explain why these elevated emotions are so crucial to the process of change?
This is one of the most important pieces of the puzzle. Think of it this way. Emotions are the end product of experiences. When you have a great experience, like a promotion or falling in love, you feel emotions like joy, excitement, or love. But most people wait for something external to happen before they feel those emotions. What I teach is that you don't have to wait. You can cultivate those emotions now, in the present moment. When you feel gratitude, for example, you're signaling to your body and brain that the future you desire has already happened. And here's what's amazing. The body doesn't know the difference. It starts to align with that future emotionally.
So, by practicing gratitude or love before the external changes, we're essentially training our body to live in that new future.
Exactly. When you practice feeling elevated emotions before the external event happens, you're conditioning your body to live in that new state of being. The brain and body begin to anticipate that future, and you're no longer living in the past. The more you practice, the more it becomes your new state of being, and that's when the external changes start to show up. We're not victims of our environment, we are creators of our reality. When you combine a clear intention, a vision of what you want, with an elevated emotion like gratitude or love, you are literally changing your energy. And when your energy changes, your life begins to change.
That's such a powerful idea. It really shifts the way we think about manifesting change in our lives. We often hear people say, "I'll be happy when I get the job," or "I'll feel grateful when I'm successful." But you're saying the opposite, that we should feel those emotions now in anticipation of what's coming.
Yes, because that's how we signal to the universe, to our body, and to our subconscious mind that we're ready for that new reality. If we're always waiting for something external to change before we feel those emotions, we're living by the old paradigm. But when we feel those emotions ahead of time, we're literally creating the future we desire. It's all about matching the energy of the future you want. Think of it like tuning into a radio station. If you want to listen to a specific station, you have to match the frequency. If you're not on the right frequency, you won't hear the music. The same is true with your future. You have to match the energy of the future you want to create, and that starts with feeling the emotions of that future now.
That's such a beautiful metaphor. So for someone listening who wants to start practicing this, what would be a simple way for them to begin? How can they start rewiring their brain and reconditioning their body for the future they want?
It's simpler than most people think. Start by setting aside just a few minutes a day to sit quietly, close your eyes, and focus on the future you want to create. Visualize it in detail. See it, feel it, hear it. But here's the key. Don't just think about it, feel it. Allow yourself to feel the emotions of that future. Feel gratitude, feel joy, feel love as if it's already happened. Practice this daily, and over time, you'll begin to notice subtle changes in your thoughts, your emotions, and your behaviors. And eventually, those internal changes will be reflected in your external world.
So it's really about creating a daily practice of connecting with the emotions of your desired future?
Exactly. Consistency is key. The more you practice, the more you reinforce those new neural pathways in the brain, and the more you condition your body to a new mind. And soon, you'll find that the life you've been visualizing and feeling for starts to manifest. But it's important to stay patient and trust the process. Change doesn't always happen overnight, but with time and practice, it will happen.
It sounds like a transformative process, and it's incredible to think that we all have the power to create such profound change in our lives. I want to thank you, Dr. Joe, for sharing these insights with us today. Before we wrap up, is there a final message you'd like to leave with our audience?
Absolutely. I want everyone listening to remember that you are more powerful than you think. No matter where you are right now, no matter what your circumstances are, you have the ability to change. You have the ability to create a future that is greater than your past. All it takes is the decision to begin. Start small, stay consistent, and trust in your own potential. When you change your mind, you change your life. And the future you dream of is waiting for you. It's just a matter of stepping into it.
Thank you for watching and joining me on this journey of growth, inspiration, and learning. Remember, you have the power to transform your life one step at a time. Whether it's rewiring your mind, pushing through challenges, or unlocking your potential, every day is an opportunity to become the best version of yourself. If you found value in today's content, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out on the tools and motivation you need to create the life you've always dreamed of.